Lesson 2.3, Simplifying Variable Expressions, Part 2. Example 2. You have the expression 5m plus 8 minus 3m minus 7. Okay, let's just look at the problem. First of all, before we do anything else, we have to change subtraction. At this point, we don't like subtraction. We're changing it to adding its opposite. So, 5m plus, nothing to do here, 8 minus. All right, here's where we keep it the same. So the 8 stays the same. This changes to addition. The 3m changes to its opposite, which is negative. And if you need to put parentheses around it, you can. If you need to rewrite it, please do that. Now we come to another subtraction. So, look to the left of that subtraction. Negative 3m stays how it is, the same. Change this to adding, and then the 7 becomes negative 7. They write it over in your note-taking guide as well. Now what we're going to do is we want to put together the like terms. The like terms here are 5m and negative 3m. So I'm just going to move this one over and then move the 8 next to where the 3m is. That's the commutative property, that I can switch those around because what are we doing? We're adding in between each term. Now I can use the distributive property. How? Well, what do they have in common? What does 5m and negative 3m have in common? You have an m. So let's bring out the m. We're going to put brackets just because we're going to use parentheses, but you can use parentheses too. And we'll now have, instead of the m's, because we take those out, 5 plus negative 3. Okay, and if you're not sure how they did that, you can also bring out the m in the front. But usually when you're writing a number next to a variable with multiplication, you try to write the number first and then the variable. It looks kind of silly when you write the variable and then the number. And then bring down the 8 and the negative 7. You can add together 5 plus negative 3. Remember, they're different signs, so you're basically subtracting. 5 is bigger, so you keep the 2. You have 2m, because that turned to 2. Bring down the m. And then what is 8 plus negative 7? 1. You cannot add the 2m together with the 1. If you're not sure why you can't just add those together, think about this. If this meant 2 marshmallows, okay, so I have 2 marshmallows, and I add to that one just stick, one line, one stick, whatever you want to think of it. If you put those together, here's 2 marshmallows, here's 1 stick, you're going to have 2 marshmallows and 1 stick. Okay, it doesn't merge together to become a marshmallow stick. Doesn't make sense, does it? So your answer is 2m plus 1. Let's try another one, maybe a little bit easier. First of all, let's change this to 5x, stays the same. Change subtraction to adding, negative 16. And you can do this on the side of your paper, side of your notebook. Get out a new piece of paper, scrap paper if you need to. Okay, let's move the variables that are the same, okay, the like terms. So I'm just going to flip-flop these two. So now I'm going to rewrite it. But instead of negative 16 in the middle, I'm going to put the negative 8x. Oops. Now, we call it combining or adding together the x's. Okay, what do they have in common? They have an x. So let's take out that x. You're left with 5 plus negative 8. Remember, this is different signs that you're adding, so we subtract, you get 3, 8 is a bigger number, so it is a negative sign. Bring down the x. Now, what did you forget to bring down? The plus negative 16. You cannot add the negative 16 with the negative 3x. They are called different or unlike terms. This is a coefficient with a term. We call it a variable term. And this is a constant term. You cannot add those together, so that is my final answer. You need to get in the mindset that you're not going to get a single number as your answer. Okay, let's try another one. Let's change this to adding, and this becomes a negative. We're going to move the negative 2 over, so it's right next to the m. Rewrite it. Use as much paper as you can to rewrite these. The more you show, the easier or the clearer it becomes. Okay, I can combine. Remember, we call it combining. This is the distributive property because I am taking out the m instead of passing it out. It's the opposite there. Now, when I took out this m, what was left? Remember, there's an invisible 1. There's an invisible 1. So there is a 1 left, plus bring down negative 2. Also, you can bring down the plus 15 at this point. What is 1 plus negative 2? Well, subtract. You get 1. 2 was bigger. It is negative 2. Bring down times n. Remember, right next to parentheses means multiplication. Plus 15. That is your answer. You cannot put the 15 together with the negative 1m. By the way, this negative 1, remember, you don't need to put the 1. So you could just write it as negative m plus 15. Both of them work as your answer. Let's go to example 3. Okay, remember, here's the problem, here's the work. What do you see here? Well, it's a number right up against parentheses, and inside the parentheses is 2 terms, that's what we call it, being added together. This is called the distributive property. So let's do that first. Pass out the 3 to the x, pass out the 3 to the 2. You now have 3x plus, what's 3 times 2? 6. If you need to see that, you could rewrite it this way. And 3 times 2 is 6. Okay, let's change this subtraction to adding. This becomes the opposite, so it's now a negative x. I'm also going to move my negative x and my 6. I'm going to switch those. Okay, they do not like to change it to addition right away. I do. It just makes it easier to see. So I'm just going to quickly change it. Now, combine the like terms. 3x plus negative x. Now, they skip some parts. If you need to, do some work over here. So, take out the x. You're left with 3 plus, okay, there's a negative. We took out the x, so what's left? Negative 1. Plus, and you also have 6 plus 9. I'm going to put in parentheses just because they're like terms. I'm actually going to add them together. So let's do that. 3 plus negative 1, subtract 2x, plus, you can do 6 plus 9. Why? Because there's no variables there. 6 plus 9, 15. I cannot put together the 2x and the 15 because they are unlike. One has an x, one doesn't. Part B. Here's the work. Let's distribute. Okay. Before you distribute, I actually would change this to adding, and that makes this a negative 5. Now, they're going to do it a little bit differently, so I'm going to show you in this empty space how I would do it versus what they do. It's still going to get the same answer. Remember, there is so many ways to get the same answer. 5 times k, negative 5 times k, pass it out, is negative 5k, plus negative 5 times 4 is negative, 5 times 4 is 20. Okay, different signs, negative. Bring down the 2k. Put these two together, okay, combine like terms. So we bring out the k, 2 times negative 5, and if you want to skip the step where you show the distributive property, that's okay too. What is 2 plus negative 5? Well, 5 minus 2 is 3, 5 is bigger, negative 3k plus negative 20. You can see what they do is that they don't change this right away. I just think it makes it more confusing. So you can see I'm going to change it right away. I would recommend the same thing to you. They put subtraction here. Subtraction is the same as adding a negative, so both of these are right. Either which way you put them, you'll get them right. Finally, part C, change these all to adding a negative, adding the opposite, not just negative, adding the opposite. Okay, again, I'm going to show you the way I would do it versus the work that they do. This right here, see there's a negative next to parentheses? This is actually the distributive property, and what you're distributing is that negative. Because it's a negative, what's invisible? 1. So what is negative 1 times 5a? Well, it changes it to a negative 5a. And what's negative 1 times negative 7? Two negatives make a positive when multiplying. Oops, no way. Negative 1 times negative 7, positive 7. Okay, what are the like terms? 5a and negative 5a. What do they have in common? They have an a in common. 5 plus negative 5, well, that becomes 0. Bring down the plus 7. If this is 0 times a, what's the rule about 0 times any number? It just becomes 0. So you have 0 plus 7, the answer is 7. You can see they did put that 1 there for the identity property, and they put the negative. Well, I'm going to put the negative. You can see that changes everything. The same thing we had, which is 7. Okay, at this point you need to pause the video. Remember, change all subtraction to adding and then the opposite. Number 3, move the like terms together. 4y plus 3y plus, negative 6. Well, the only thing you can combine is 4y and 3y to make 7y. And again, you can have 7y plus negative 6. Number 4, change subtraction to adding the opposites. Now, I'm going to put the numbers together that have no variables. And sometimes I like to put parentheses around it just to show that they are like terms. You don't have to. 9 plus negative 5 is 4. This is a 1 plus negative 8, negative 7. What's in common? W. And again, either which way you write it because of the commutative property, that will work. Okay, let's change all these subtractions to adding the opposite. Distribute. See the parentheses next to the number? 4x plus, what's 4 times negative 1? Negative 4. I'm going to bring everything else down. See how much Now I'm going to combine the like terms without moving anything. 2x plus negative 2x. 4x plus negative 2x is 2x. Plus negative 4 plus negative 7 is negative 11. 6, distribute negative 6k plus negative 18 plus 5k. 5k and negative 6k make negative 1k, which is just negative k, plus negative 18. Both of these are the same answer. You do not need to put the 1k. You can if you want to.